Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Monday. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network, and today's program will be scintillating. We're grateful for your viewership and your listenership. We are live literally on every social media platform known to mankind, and we bring content to you that is entertaining, engaging, educational, and we do it in a long-form setting that cannot be duplicated in this community. Over the weekend, we have highlighted the sale of Brown's Fried Chicken and a $2.4 million sales price, and we highlighted the positive news for the owners, friends of the program, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, a couple, hardworking couple that I've known since their son, downtown Mike Brown, was a three-sport standout at Monticello High School. My first job out of the University of Virginia was as a sports writer for the Daily Progress, and the Monticello High School sports and athletic department had fantastic teams. And one of the standouts, one of the stars for 4 years of these teams was downtown Mike Brown. This guy was a middle infielder on the baseball team, a five-tool player on the baseball team, someone who could run, who could throw, who could hit, who could run, steal bases. He could do anything on a sports field. He was the star quarterback of the Monticello football team and head coach Brud Bicknell. He was also a combo guard on the basketball team, downtown Mike Brown. 4-year starter, I believe, at all three sports, excuse me. His parents, likable, friendly, always present for their son, I believe their only child, always present for downtown Mike Brown's athletic accomplishments, accolades, and achievements. And me, the reporter, the sports writer for the Daily Progress, I'd cover Monticello often because their team was fantastic. I got to know the Browns, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Always saw them in the stands, always speaking with them, talking about business or real estate or sports with Mr. Brown in particular. They in turn would read what I wrote in the newspaper, and offer commentary on some of those stories that were published in the only daily publication of Central Virginia. That's where I gained experience and knowledge and the base for running a business, 3 businesses, one of them that celebrates a 14-year anniversary in May of this year. So we're going to discuss today the sale of Brown's Fried Chicken for $2.4 million, and we're going to unpack it from every single angle. We will also talk friend of the program, Tim Grossman's listings on Shamrock Road that are now under contract. A combined asking price of essentially $1.6 million. It took just barely over 2 weeks to get these listings under contract in a multiple offer scenario. I'm also going to highlight on today's show an unfinished property in the city of Charlottesville, unfinished, a small property on Palatine Avenue, a property that is 73 years old, literally not even finished, that has a price per square feet of $439 per square feet, 672 total square feet. It does not have drywall in, it does not have painting done, finishes. It literally is a home that is showing the studs and has an asking price of $295K. That topic will come up on today's program. We're going to talk upzoning in Charlottesville. We're going to talk a downtown Biergarten that's on the cusp in April 22nd and April 23rd to be exact. We'll explain how this could be a proof of performance for a downtown Biergarten and an incremental revenue stream for the city of Charlottesville that yours truly has been championing for years on this network. We will highlight Michael Payne's commentary and analysis from over the weekend on why a 10-cent real estate tax rate increase is not the right path of pursuit for Charlottesville, and how school reconfiguration is in fact something that perhaps should be delayed. We'll touch base with Michael Payne on today's program, his analysis, and welcome him to the program potentially next week. And we'll talk UVA and Mississippi State and the NIT. This program is red hot. We welcome our newest partner, and by newest, we've done business with them for going on 5 years. Greenberry's Coffee. This brand is established, it's welcomed, it's beloved in this community. Greenberry's Coffee, now a presenting sponsor of the I Love CVille Network and the I Love CVille Show, along with our friends at Skooma Boutique Dispensary, Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine, Ting Fiber Internet, The Boar's Head, Animal Connection, Interstate Service Company, and just the best of the best, Anderson Seafood and Catering, Cameron Limousine, of businesses that you can count on in this community. Greenberries, welcome back to the I Love CVille Network and the I Love CVille Show. A smart decision to being a part of this program. And folks, before I get into the topics, and I'm going to get into them in a matter of moments here, you, the viewer and listener, have the opportunity to dictate the pace and tempo of the show. It's the only show, only platform where you, the viewer and the listener, can determine what we cover on the program. And many of the topics that are on the rundown are the topics you see on screen, are ideas contributed by viewers and listeners. It is dynamic and interactive, this program. So please reach out to me in any setting, and I will consider what you have to say and likely work it into the program. The lead of the show is something that went viral over the weekend. And I'm going to read what I wrote on my Facebook page, on the Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We reached just over 253,000 unique IP addresses last year. And I want to read what I wrote, and then I'm going to offer a deeper analysis in this long form setting we call the I Love CVille Show. First, I'm going to set the stage. A couple of weeks ago, we had Tim Grossman on the program, a realtor and entrepreneur and a gentleman that owns investment property throughout the area. I got to talking with him outside the squash courts one night about 2 properties he had. And he understands that, this network has its pulse on real estate and what's moving and shaking from a transaction standpoint. He said to me, "Do you think now's a good time to list these properties?" And I mentioned to him, absolutely. And he knew a lot of this. He's on point. There's no inventory on the market. These listings are next to Scott Stadium. The upzoning potential that is on the near horizon. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, believes the upzoning will be approved before close of business of 2023. In fact, he's got a bet, which I think he's going to win, with the distinguished gentleman Keith Smith, that it's going to happen. I believe their deadline was June of 2023. The upzoning was going to be approved by council. Neil says yes. They got a bottle of brown liquor on that bet, that prop bet. I said, "Tim, you got it. Now's the time. You got no inventory on the market. You got obscenely low interest rates, which is going to be appealing to investors. You got this upzoning that's going to be approved as early as June of 2023, certainly by close of business 2023. You got the University of Virginia inviting or accepting, welcoming more students than ever before. University of Virginia hiring more people than ever before. These 2 listings, which you got at a fraction of what they're valued at today, put them on the market. See what happens." Well, lo and behold, 17 days later, multiple offer scenario, these listings are under contract. The combined asking price for the sake of a talk show is $1.6 million. The exact number, $1,598,900. And I'm going to read to you what I wrote over the weekend that has gone viral. And then I'm going to take a really deep dive on this. Find this on my Facebook page, on the I Love CVille Instagram, Twitter, anywhere you get your content. It's all over social. Here's what I wrote. The I Love CVille Network highlighted 2 dilapidated properties 17 days ago in the city of Charlottesville with a staggering $1,598,900 asking price combined that left Charlottesvillians dismayed, depressed, demoralized, and downtrodden. These 2 properties are now under contract. With a cursory glance, these side-by-side properties appeared to clamor for Chip and Joanna gains instead of the multiple offers they earn. Each property is 80-plus years old. Each property is small. Each property has seen better days. Each property is owned by the same entrepreneurial realtor. However, in today's progressive and upzoned Charlottesville, Virginia ecosystem, when 2 homes sit side by side, these 2 homes on a combined 0.32 acres are the equivalent of the California Gold Rush in the shadows of Scott Stadium. The owners of the 2 homes, a benevolent family man who is nearing retirement age, explained to the community on the I Love CVille show how he extrapolated the $1,598,900 asking price. He explained the upzoning potential and the significant density and rental opportunity that coincides. After he explained the pricing mechanics, you can listen to the interview on ilovecville.com. I realized the following. 1, while the $1,598,900 combined asking price stunned, surprised, and soured so many of us, it was priced correctly and in fact in market value range. 2, with most of the dilapidated properties in the city, it is the dirt and the upzoning potential that will drive value and not the structures themselves. 3, upzoning was brainstormed, lobbied, and executed with an affordable housing foundation. Here is the upzoning thinking. More zoning potential will create more housing stock, which will create more housing supply. The additional supply will drive prices down. It's economics 101. This approach, however, has backfired. In reality, upzoning has been the foundation for wealthy investor speculation and the avalanche of expensive rentals to follow. Deep-pocketed investors, many of whom are from out of town, are purchasing properties with upzoning potential to create rental business models. In conclusion, here is the final takeaway. Although the intentions were positive, the progressives who lobbied for upzoning policies never anticipated the flood of rich investor speculation, nor did they anticipate the volatile nature of rising inflation, labor shortages, supply chain shortages, gasoline shortages, increased cost of goods, increased real estate assessments, increased tax rate assessments, increased personal property taxes, increased interest rates, and the massive gentrification that accompanies all these key performance indicators. In a nutshell, upzoning will eventually make our 10.2 square mile landlocked city even more expensive than ever before. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I encourage everybody to follow I Love CVille on Instagram or our I Love CVille Facebook, any of our I Love CVille social platforms for analysis like this. Now, I offered the written word analysis of what's transpiring in the community for you to digest and read as preparation for this show, which is going to be the spoken word and long form content. It's dynamic, multimedia. We got a town in a city that can't expand north, east, west, south. It's landlocked. It's surrounded by Albemarle County. you got a revenue sharing agreement in place between the city and the county that's fortifying that landlocked nature of the city. Essentially, you've got a moat. Think of Charlottesville like a castle, the city. And around this castle, there's this moat of water. And crossing the moat is impossible because that moat, in metaphorical speak, has alligators and crocodiles and sharks in it. And those alligators and crocodiles and sharks are a revenue sharing agreement or local bureaucracy or the strength that Albemarle County has preventing Charlottesville decades ago from expanding its jurisdiction. So the city, it has nowhere to go north, west, south, east, or west. It can maybe go up, and more on that in minutes. But right now, there's no real developable land. That's why this Ix Art Park listing that Ludwig and Alan Kajin have, Ludwig Kutner and Alan Kajin have, is so freaking valuable. That's why this, and I'm going to the I Love CVille Instagram to get the specs of that listing right now. The Ix Art Park, here it is right now. It's on the I Love CVille Instagram. Ix Art Park has a listing price of $83,974,044. It's 17.47 acres, and Alan and Ludwig are asking $4,806,757 per acre. Can someone that's watching this program think of a piece of land in the city of Charlottesville that has more developmental potential than Ix Park right now? Can anyone think of one piece of land in the city of Charlottesville that has more developmental potential than Ix Park does right now? If you can think of one, please put it in the feed. I will acknowledge it and stand corrected. But from my standpoint, the most important undeveloped piece of real estate in the city is Ix. This $84 million, call it $84 million for the sake of a talk show, this $84 million asking price very well could be in the wheelhouse, considering some of the deals that are happening. I'm going to put it in perspective. And Judah Wickhauer is our enterprising developer. Get ready to have the photos of 216 Palatine Avenue on screen. I'll call for them, sir. Okay? I will call for them. I'm going to try to put this stuff in perspective for you, okay, guys? Brown's Fried Chicken just sold on Avon Street for $2,400,000 to a Glen Allen company. The property was assessed at $911,000. And as Sean Tubbs relayed to me through his fantastic Town Crier Productions, this is 163.45% higher than assessment. The $2.4 million sales price to a Glen Allen company that's masquerading as a Charlottesville LLC. I think the LLC name is like Charlottesville Properties LLC, something like that. So it's trying to localize it as a Charlottesville business, but really it's a Glen Allen group that created an LLC with the Charlottesville name. This Glen Allen group with the Charlottesville LLC name saw that the property was assessed at $911,000 in 2022, but they ended up paying $2,400,000 for it. $2,400,000 for it. Now, I want to highlight one thing first. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, the same Mr. and Mrs. Brown that I met while watching their son, downtown Mike Brown, hit home runs for Mark Mace and Pete O'Malley, the head coaches of Mustang Baseball. The same downtown Mike Brown that I watch throw touchdown passes for Bud McNell and the Monticello football team. And the same downtown Mike Brown I watch golf for 20-10 for head coach Kareem Martin and the Monticello Mustang basketball team in the Jefferson District. This young man, who's now a football coach for the University of Cincinnati, a guy who played in the National Football League for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I believe a couple other teams. I met his parents. At the time, they were running a fried chicken business in Esmont. They left Esmont, they went to Charlottesville, and they purchased a property on Avon that is now Brown Fried Chicken. At the time of making that purchase, the land and the structure were in a tough part of town. There was some shady stuff going around there. But they saw potential, and they had vision. And they had an entrepreneur's spirit and an affinity for risk-taking. And they said, you know what? We're going to do Browns here. There's a lot of drive-by traffic, and Charlottesville's more populated than Esmont. And we're going to do gas in a convenience store and our secret family recipe of delicious, damn good fried chicken. And lo and behold, that's what they did. And I want to emphasize to everybody that's watching this program today, the first thing that we should do is we should champion, celebrate, applaud, give props, acknowledge, and accolade Mr. and Mrs. Brown for selling this property and their business for $2,400,000. I do not want to be misconstrued in the least. Mr. and Mrs. Brown selling this business for $2,400,000 is legit, is bona fide, is the real freaking deal. These people are the American dream. They worked their ass off. They worked all the shifts. They were always in the store. Mr. Brown frequently running the register. Mrs. Brown always there. They worked their tail off. Them selling the business and their land for $2.4 million is a reason to celebrate and say, job well done. I'm happy for them. I'm so happy for them. And please, someone tell them this. Please tag or pass this along to Mr. and Mrs. Brown or Downtown Mike Brown, their son. My analyses and what I'm about to say has nothing to do with the American dream. But it has everything to do with upzoning and the precarious position Charlottesville City Hall has put us residents in. You have a fried chicken place with some gas pumps and a small convenience store that is selling for $2.4 million. That has sold for $2.4 million. You got two 80-year-old properties on Shamrock Road that have a combined square feet, if you combine the two properties, of basically 2,100 square feet, that very fairly, I'm very fair in saying this, need tremendous work, that are selling damn near close to $1.6 million. Do I think it's going to be full ask? No. Do I think it's very close to it? Yes. It's 0.32 acres combined when you combine both lots. You got this property. Judah, do you have it? Judah Wickhauer is our enterprising director. Can you put 216 Palatine Avenue on screen? Let's start with the front of the property, okay? Let's start with the front of the property, okay, sir? This is by Belmont Park, right? Behind Quarry Park. Tell me when the front of the property is on screen. This is right behind Brown's Fried Chicken, by Moore's Creek. Is it on screen? Yeah. Everyone look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. That's the front, right?
It was.
Okay.
It's on the site.
Okay, look at the screen. He's showing a slideshow of photos. 216 Palatine Avenue. The asking price is $295,000. Tell me when the inside of the house is showing. This home isn't even finished. Look at the screen now. You have a piece of property that literally is nothing but studs. No drywall, no finished flooring, no appliances, no paint, no real kitchen. I mean, you got as raw can be. And the asking price of this piece of property is $300K. $295K to be exact. This is in the shadows of Brown's Fried Chicken. Right next to it. Right next to it. You got a house that's going to need 6 figures plus of work. Minimum 6 figures plus. Just to get it inhabitable. And this piece of property, keep the photos rotating through. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. This piece of property, if you look at the Zillow metrics, has been viewed 1,400 times and saved 27 times in the 9 days it's been on the market. This, my friends, viewers and listeners of the program, is the collateral damage of upzoning. You have property in the city that is literally being marketed in the listing. And Aaron Garcia, Lauren Woodruff, I give you props. I am not knocking the hustle. I don't knock the hustle. Aaron Garcia, I give you props. Lauren Woodruff, I give you props. Tim Grossman, I give you props. Downtown Mike Brown and Mr. and Mrs. Brown, I give you props. Alan Kajin and Ludwig Kutner, I give you props. This is the market we're in. You cannot fault people. Go back to the one. Go back to the one. Please go back to the one shot. You cannot fault people for asking fair market value for their property, despite if that fair market value sour, shocks, and stuns you, dismays you, depresses you, disgusts you, leaves you downtrodden, demoralized, whatever alliteration you want to utilize. You cannot fault people for asking fair market value because we do not know the hard work, the sweat equity, the grind and sacrifices that went into getting to this point. I own a lot of a building on the downtown mall. If I don't choose to pass this to our wonderful son, if I choose to sell it, damn well I'm going to ask full ask and market value because the risks I've taken over 14 years are incomprehensible to get to this point. Same with the Browns. Same with Grossman, Timmy. Same with the owners of 216 Palatine Avenue. Same with Kajin and Kutner at Ix. But this, my friends, I'm highlighting to you is the collateral damage of upzoning. You have unfinished properties that are listed as studios in 662 square feet, but are truly marketed because of the large lot that could accommodate both an addition and or an accessory dwelling unit. That's literally in the listing. The most important sentence in the marketing copy for this listing on Palatine Avenue is the last line that says, lot is large and could accommodate both an addition and or an accessory dwelling unit. So who the hell do you think is going to buy this? Who the hell can afford this? You're taking a property, 216 Palatine Avenue. It's like 600 square feet. That if it wasn't for the upzoning, this would have been a first-time home buyer's property. This would have been the crib of someone that was buying a crib for the first time. Instead, in a progressive, upzoned ecosystem, this first-time home buyer's crib is not for a first-time home buyer, It's for an investor. And not just a mom and pop investor, but an investor who has 6 figures plus to finish the primary residence, to get it to market, and significantly more money to build an additional unit, an ADU, or an addition, to make this purchase justifiable. If you're going to flirt with $295,000 asking price, you need return on investment. And the return on investment on a $295,000 asking price is not drop $100,000 to finish the home and then rent it, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, its current format, for $900 a month, $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month. Let's say you got $1,500 a month. Do you know how freaking long it would take to get your money back if you bought a crib that's $295K and dropped $100 into it, taking you to $395? Let's just call it $400K for the sake of conversation. $400,000. Shoot. It's probably closer to $450 when you factor in taxes, closing costs, all the red tape that goes into buying real estate. Probably closer to $450. You rent that spot for $1,500 a month. Do you know how long it's going to take you to get your $450,000 back? No investor would do that deal. The only way this deal is done, speaking firsthand as an investor, is if someone's able to finish the project and put an ADU in the backyard or an addition up or back to the current residence that's in play. You have then sacrificed or cannibalized. You've cannibalized, that's a better word. You have cannibalized a home that would be a first-time home buyer's crib today, and you've made it opportunistic for a wealthy investor to purchase and create a rental business model. Now, this is what progressives will say. In fact, when I made the commentary, when I posted on my Facebook page the analysis of upzoning, you had a planning commissioner, Rory Stolzenberg. Someone tagged Rory Stolzenberg. You literally had a Charlottesville planning commissioner and Rory Stolzenberg. The definition of progressive is Rory Stolzenberg. You had a planning commissioner literally commenting in the comment section of my personal Facebook page. Charlottesville Planning Commissioner, writing firsthand commentary in perspective in the comment section of my Facebook page. Go look at it. It was from over the weekend. He literally is writing in a planning commissioner of responding to what I'm saying. You have progressives that say, Jer, the additional housing stock that's going to be created on Shamrock Road, the additional housing stock that's going to be created on Palatine Avenue is going to free up other homes for locals and residents. Because if you take a piece of property and you 2x, 3x, and 4x the density on Shamrock, or you 2x or 3x or 4x the density on Palatine Avenue, then more locals can live there. Students on Shamrock, working class on Palatine. And then those students and those working class won't be taking rooftops or bedrooms or doors from other people. So it's going to create housing stock availability and stabilize price point and keep this market in check. That's the commentary and the analysis. And I say, bull. Bull. Does Palatine Avenue in its current format create more housing stock for someone today? No. No, it doesn't. It's not finished. It's going to need an investor to finish it. It's going to take a month, if not, it's going to take months, if not longer to finish it. This home could have gone to a first-time home buyer. Shamrock Road, that density, the potential with the density, is that going to create more housing stock? Maybe, but not until the upzoning is approved. And that's 18 months away, maybe longer. And once that upzoning is approved, 18 months away, maybe longer, then you got to do the work, the building, the hammering, the nailing, the gluing, the painting, the flooring. And that's going to take a year, if not longer, to finish, to get to the 2, 3, 4x density that you need. So, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners of this fine talk show, please realize that this additional supply, stabilizing price point, more supply will help offset the demand. That analysis is years from happening. And in the short term, between now and reality of that demand, that's additional supply happening. In the short term, you know what's happening? These sales are going to be registered in the GIS. These sales will be registered with City Hall, with Albemarle County. And the assessor is going to say, good Lord, 126 and 128 Shamrock Road basically sold for $800,000 each. It's time we raise the assessments for everybody else on that street. Good Lord, Palatine Avenue sold for $300,000, close to it. It's time, and that was 216 Palatine Avenue. It's time for 208 and 214 and 212 and 209 and 207 and 219 and all the houses around it to have their assessments go up as well. And that literally is how gentrification happens. Obscene sales prices associated with upzoning potential will cause assessments to uptick so much that fixed income or paycheck to paycheck homeowners will be gentrified out of their cribs. And that gentrification will happen before the added demand is added to the ecosystem. And when that gentrification happens, more deep-pocketed investors will buy up the gentrified homes. And before you know it, you have a community that is rich people, even richer or wealthier landlords, and the people that serve demographics 1 and 2, rich people and even richer landlords. And no one is saying this. I am, but who else is? And why isn't anyone saying this? Is it because money talks? Why is no one highlighting this? The middle class is being pinched and gentrified away and out. And the paycheck to paycheck and our friends and family on the financial margin are being obliterated and destroyed and chewed up and spit out. Why is no one saying this? Why are we not talking about this? don't understand it. My wife and I were young parents. Our kid turns 4 in 6 days. He's the best, man. Little man, we put to bed yesterday. We were troopers as parents, and we fought through nap time. And one of the benefits of fighting through nap time is your kid goes to bed a little bit earlier. Especially at that age. They're so tired, they just crash and they sleep like a log. So we're like, it's Sunday, we're going to fight through nap time. There's a lot of good shows we like watching on Sunday night. We like watching the Uber show, the show on Showtime about Uber. I like watching the show on HBO about the Los Angeles Lakers dynasty and how Jerry Buss was building the dynasty on HBO. A lot of good shows I like watching on Sundays. I loved watching Yellowstone and 1883 on Sundays, or The Mayor of Kingstown. Paramount Plus is a damn good network for content. Sundays have great talk show content. We're rewatching Dexter again. So we're going to power through. And we're not going to give our little man a nap. And he's going to go to bed earlier, and then we're going to be able to watch a couple hours of TV before we go to bed. And after a long day of parenting, there's nothing better than having a cold Minuteman from 3 Notch. My wife will have a cold Ghost. And we put them in the nightstands next to us in bed, and we watch the TV in the bedroom, and we just relax. Well, we put our son down to bed. It was like, what, sweetheart, 6 o'clock or so? I think it was 6 o'clock or so he went down. And we sit in bed, I'm 15%, 3 sips into my Minuteman. I think she'd cracked her Ghost, maybe not. I think you cracked your Ghost, didn't you? I think you did, sweetie. And we're sitting there and we're watching the Showtime show on Uber. And in walks into the bedroom our son. And immediately we're both mouth agape and we're like, what? What the hell are you doing here? We're supposed to. And then immediately our surprised and our stunned and somewhat soured approach softened. We said, come on, get in bed here, get in bed with us. And we got him in bed, and we didn't watch the Showtime show. We couldn't. It's got vulgarities and cuss words and sexual content in it. And I didn't watch the HBO Laker Dynasty program. We couldn't. It's got drug use and sexual content and frontal nudity. So what did we end up putting on? What's that show called we put on? Can you text me what it was called? Not Milo and Otis. What was it called? Do you know what it was called? Text it to me. Put on a kid's show. Some kind of cartoon movie. And at that point, while I was disappointed I couldn't see the Showtime show, part of me, thank you, she just texted to me, Lilo and Stitch. Thank you, sweetheart. We watched Lilo and Stitch. And while part of me was so bummed that we couldn't watch the show and have our cold beers relaxing and chilling, I was more happy that he was there. And the 3 of us were just in bed under the covers watching Lilo and Stitch. And the point of this whole anecdote is I want what's best for him, even if that means the sacrifice of what I want, what she wants. And what's best for him is not a community that is 3 demographics of people, the very rich, the even richer, wealthier landlords, and the people that serve them. That's where we're heading. That is the collateral damage of upzoning. And if people don't realize that, then they're not seeing the forest through the trees. Now, I made the comment, James Watson, I'm going to get to these comments that you made. James Watson's the king of orbit. I met James Watson as a student at the University of Virginia. He was a fabulous barkeep, and immediately we had a lot in common. So we've dubbed him the king of orbit. I made the comment, what piece of property in the city of Charlottesville is more valuable or has more developmental potential than Ix Park? And he has suggested a few. He has suggested Harry Wright's junkyard, that's behind Beer Run, the old Kmart, Seminole Square Shopping Center, the Dewberry Hotel, and Fashion Square Mall. I appreciate all these comments. James, I love them. I think the Harry Wright junkyard has tremendous developmental potential. However, I think Ix Park, because of its proximity to the downtown mall, has more developmental potential than Harry Wright's. And someone correct me if I'm wrong. Seminole Square Shopping Center is in Albemarle County, not the city of Charlottesville. Is the old Kmart location in the city of Charlottesville, or is it in Albemarle County? Are you looking that up, J-Dubs? The Kmart, the old Kmart location, city of Charlottesville, Albemarle County. Seminole Square is Albemarle County. Albemarle County line is right at Stonefield, right? Now, Dewberry Hotel's in the city of Charlottesville. I still think the Ix Park has more potential developmental from a housing standpoint than the Dewberry. Fashion Scare Mall is definitely Albemarle County. The land along East High Street, the waterfront Rivanna River land, undoubtedly has developmental potential. Until the Cosner family decides what they're going to do with East High Street. The Cosner family owns most of High Street, the commercial corridor. Until they figure out what they're going to do with East High Street, I've said many times on this program, the most significant underutilized corridors of real estate in the city of Charlottesville are Cherry Avenue and East High Street. Underperforming corridors of real estate, East High Street and Cherry Avenue. And Ix Park, I love Ix Park. Someone described Ix Park as the last little bit of weird left in Charlottesville. And that's a great description of Ix Art Park, the last little bit of weird left in Charlottesville. But I hate to say this, in the inventory short ecosystem that is Charlottesville, Virginia, having an art park with many of the sculptures made out of metal may not be the best use of that property. Kevin Yancey, the king of Waynesboro, says the Albemarle County line is at Hydraulic Road. Is Kmart in the city of Charlottesville, or is it in Albemarle County? Does anyone know that? Kmart, Judah, do you know?
Don't know, I would imagine.
Kmart, is it in Albemarle County or the city of Charlottesville? Erin King, watching the program, she's one of Western Albemarle's finest graduates. She said, "You nailed it. I'm so happy for the Browns. They earned that cheddar. They earned that money." Yes, they did. They worked their tails off for that, and I salute and applaud the Browns. In fact, I may try to welcome Mr. Brown on the show here. Don't be fooled by progressive thinking. And this progressive thinking tries to utilize your guilt against you. Your conscience against you. You have a house, so should everyone else. Oh, you don't want density? Are you against people having homes too? Upzoning cannibalizes housing stock in the short term and allocates it to deep-pocketed investors. And in the short term, it takes homes that would go to first-time home buyers and puts them in the hands of wealthy developers, many of them out of market, like the Brown's Fried Chicken story, where the owners are now from Glen Allen. by the time the additional housing stock is created, which is going to be 2025. Remember, this isn't going to get finally approved until 2023. And it's going to take time to get the permitting and to set up the jobs and the remodeling and get the actual work done. You can't start the projects until upzone is approved. Upzoning will not get approved until middle of next year at the earliest, perhaps close of business 2023. So we are 18 months away from that. And that's going to take a year, if not longer, to do the construction. So we're 2.5, 3 years away from the additional housing. What happens in that 3-year window to the people that are on fixed incomes or would-be first-time home buyers? They get screwed. They get screwed. Kmart is in the county. Thank you, Kevin Yancey, King of Waynesboro, watching the program. Kevin Yancey says Kmart is in the county. Georgia Gilmer says Rory Stolzenberg's thinking is sadly hilarious. Thank you, Georgia Gilmer, for watching the program today. Crazy times, man. Next topic on the program, Michael Payne's Facebook post. First, let me highlight the Downtown Mall Biergarten, then I'll get to Michael Payne's Facebook post. I've been championing a beer garden in downtown Charlottesville for years on this program. I think it's a no-brainer, and I think a Downtown Mall Biergarten could be a fantastic source for incremental revenue for this community. I think if you make the Downtown Mall a beer garden, you're going to raise, and I did the, I'm going to Google this. If you Google I Love CVille, Google I Love CVille plus Biergarten, spelled Biergarten, Biergarten. And one of the first stories down there, the Downtown Biergarten can help fund Charlottesville City School reconfiguration. Here's some conservative projections for you for a Downtown Mall beer garden. You open the beer garden 47 weeks a year. 47 weeks a year. You get 10,000 locals, tourists, and students to come per week for 47 weeks. That's very doable. 10,000 locals, tourists. How many people come to Fridays after 5? How many people come to Fridays after 5 every Fridays after 5? I would bet you Fridays after 5 is between 2,000 and 3,000 people from start to finish. Does anyone know how many people come to Fridays? Judah, can you look that up for me? How many people come to Fridays after 5? Each event, I would bet it's between 2,000 and 3,000 people. So to say that 10,000 locals, tourists, and students would use the Downtown Beer Garden each week, I think is conservative. You do it 47 weeks a year. You take 5 weeks off due to weather. You sell a wristband at $5 per wristband to each local that wants to use the beer garden. You get $50,000 in gross incremental revenue per week. $50K in gross revenue per week times 47 weeks, you're taking 5 weeks off a year, is $2,350,000 in incremental gross revenue for the city of Charlottesville per year. That's upfront money, day one money, incremental revenue money. And most importantly, the true revenue is the back-end revenue associated with the meals tax, the transit occupancy tax, and the retail tax. The meals tax, the transit occupancy tax, and the retail tax is going to undoubtedly increase or spike if you create a beer garden in the downtown mall. I think this downtown mall beer garden idea, if you're able to do it, is $8 to $10 million a year in incremental revenue for the city of Charlottesville. $8 to $10 million a year. You got a proof of performance that's about to happen with the Tom Tom Festival and a block party. And the beer garden is going to happen with the Tom Tom Festival on April 22nd and April 23rd. The entire Tom Tom Festival is April 20th through the 24th. So the 2 middle days, the 22nd and the 23rd, are going to have a downtown mall block party. And part of that block party in the downtown mall is going to be a designated beer garden. The idea we've been championing on this network for years. This is a pop, a proof of performance of what could potentially happen in the city of Charlottesville. If this goes well, and Paul Byer, the founder of the Tom Tom Festival, is a local who has skin in the game, who has economic and financial resources, and he knows how to throw a party, he's going to do this well. If this goes well, the downtown Biergarten concept very well could get scaled throughout the year. This is a tryout, a pop, a proof of performance. I'm excited for this. We all should be. And I want to highlight something. And the reason I highlighted former police chief Rachel Brackney's Twitter account and tweets that she issued last week was a number of reasons. Chip Boyles, the former interim city manager of Charlottesville, and Jason Ness, formerly of the Charlottesville Office of Economic Development, during COVID and the pandemic, very much tried to do a downtown beer garden. And why wouldn't you? It's a freaking pandemic. People are afraid to eat inside. Why wouldn't you create an outdoor concept like we've been championing, like we've highlighted, like we've analytically written on our network so many times and said, do this. Allow patrons to eat food and drink booze from the Ting Pavilion to the Code Building. And do it during the pandemic because it's outside and it will drive consumers to the mall during a pandemic when people are afraid to be inside. Well, guess what? Chief Rachel Brackney put on Twitter last week why she would do this makes zero sense to me. She put on Twitter, quote, I refuse to approve this beer garden plan when former interim city manager Chip Boyles and Charlottesville Office of Economic Development's Jason Ness wanted to shove it down our throats. She wrote on Twitter, this plan could only be approved by the chief of police signing off on it. I guess the acting chief, Tito Durrett, caved to the political pressures of the privileged. She further added on Twitter, quote, the privileged class are the first to call the police when others have an open container and, I struggle with this word, imbibe on the mall. This plan calls for ambassadors to monitor who paid for the privilege to drink and stroll on the mall. This is a pay to play and stroll, end quote. She put that on Twitter. She's in the middle of a $3 million lawsuit with City Hall, and she's literally legitimately ripping her former direct superior, Chip Boyles. She's ripping Jason Ness, formerly of the Economic Development Office, and she's throwing a former colleague who is currently the acting police chief, Tito Durrett, under the bus. This is someone who is suing the city of Charlottesville for $3 million for wrongful termination. And she's literally ripping her former boss, someone from the Economic Development Office, and the acting police chief who replaced her. She's ripping them on Twitter. She did the lawsuit in early November. It is now March. We're talking December, January, February. We're talking over 4 months later after she got canned, pink-slipped. Fired. She's now ranting on Twitter about her former employer. If you're her attorney, you should say, what are you doing? This is the definition of poor strategy. And if you're her, you should be saying, if you're in her circles, you should be saying, get over it. They fired you. Move on. Now we know why the beer garden didn't happen during the pandemic. The idea we've been championing. The city manager was trying to make the idea reality. Chip Boyles, a reasonable dude. It was the police chief who kept it from happening. Tom Tom Festival is going to do a variation of the beer garden on April 22nd and April 23rd. I think it's going to be a good event, a good proof of performance. I want to highlight Michael Payne's comments from over the weekend. If you have not had a chance to read Michael Payne's comments on his Facebook page, please do. I'm going to call them up and read them almost verbatim to you. Michael Payne is a Charlottesville City Councilor. We're in an economic climate where I will cut to the chase. Go to Michael Payne's Facebook page. In fact, I'm going to put it in the comment section now of Michael Payne's. Michael Payne, we are talking about this post right now on the I Love CVille Show. CVille Show. Period. Enter. I just wrote that on the comment section of his Facebook page. Go there. Michael, are you watching the program? I know you watch. We like when you watch the program. I'm going to send him a message. We are highlighting, direct message, highlighting your comments, your Facebook post now on the show. I'm direct messaging Councilor Michael Payne. I just sent him the Facebook message. I'm going to go to his Facebook page and I'm going to read these to you. This was posted 21 hours ago. It's a long Facebook post, but it's very informative. Last Thursday, City Council held our first budget work session since the release of the draft fiscal year 2023 budget. It highlighted again how Charlottesville faces difficult budget realities that we must confront. Below are some thoughts on what our overall budget situation really is and possible paths for moving forward. I believe, he says, I believe that our budget as currently proposed is not realistic or good public policy. If adopted as is, I believe City Council will potentially be committing reckless financial management without an honest consideration of long-term consequences. I'm concerned about this for two reasons, namely the impact on our policy priorities and the ability of city government to function well operationally. Michael continues, as to the first concern, even with a 10-cent real estate tax increase or some equivalent of that, our budget would not have room for significant new investments for potentially up to 10 years. What are the practical implications of that? Our current budget, again, with a 10-cent tax increase, would not provide the city with the ability to fund Charlottesville-Albemarle Transit's proposed expansion to fixed 30 or 15-minute routes, final development, implementation of our climate action plan, Piedmont Housing Alliance's proposed Park Street affordable housing projects, future phases of public housing redevelopment, accelerated construction of bike pedestrian infrastructure, and anything authorized but not issued in the capital improvement budget. Jesus, did you hear that? Even if we do, this is me talking now, even if we do a 10-cent real estate tax rate increase to fund Buford School reconfiguration, we still would not have the room to do any other capital improvement projects for 8 to 10 years, including public transportation, Piedmont Housing Alliance proposed Park Street affordable housing projects, public housing redevelopment, bike and pedestrian infrastructure. Do you hear this? He's telling you the nitty-gritty and the terrible situation we are in right now. Michael continues, but even more concerning to me is the operational impacts on the city's ability to function as an organization. For potentially 8 to 10 years, we would not have much of any room in the budget for cost of living adjustments for employees if inflation continues. Did you hear that, Judah? You know what that means? What does that mean? If they do the 10-cent real estate tax rate increase, for 8 to 10 years, they wouldn't be able to give employees raises. Do you hear that? Explain to me why anyone of talent or merit would come and work for the city of Charlottesville if a freaking city councilor is explaining that if we do this tax rate increase for 10 cents just to fund Buford School reconfiguration, we are not going to be able to give employees of the city of Charlottesville raises for 8 to 10 years. Would you work for the city if you knew for 8 to 10 years your salary would be flat? Nah, right? No way, right? You'd say hell no, right?
Hell no.
Hell no. Who would do that? You would get the scrubs of the scrubs working there. The dregs of jurisdictional management would agree to something like that. Not talent. Not people you want leading your city. The dregs and the scrubs on the payroll. Do you hear that? I can't shoot it straight any more than this, can I? Michael Payne, that's a recipe. Michael Payne says, that's a recipe for bleeding talented city staff and not being able to recruit talented staff, reduced ability to actually implement policy priorities. That's him saying as a politician what I just said. That means you get the scrubs and the dregs of jurisdictional management. Last paragraph, third to last paragraph. Finally, go to Michael Payne's Facebook page and read this. Finally, when it comes to school reconfiguration, by far our largest proposed expenditure and the topic of the most debate, I believe it creates a few decision points for City Council. If the top priority is funding school reconfiguration this budget cycle, based on the reality of our budget, it would seem to me the only viable path forward is finding ways to scale back the cost via value engineering and other changes so that the ultimate cost to the city in our CIP, capital improvement plan, is closer to 50 million rather than 75 million plus. If the top priority is that projects cost the city must be 75 million plus in scope, then we would have to spend the next several budget cycles proactively getting those new revenue sources and creating a sustainable plan for funding the larger scope budget requests. The other options in front of City Council would be to explore phasing the project, potentially with the renovation and modernization of Buford at 33 mil versus 75 mil reconfiguration. This budget cycle with the goal of renovations, modernizations, and leaving space to prepare cost new construction and do the full reconfiguration next several budget cycles to follow. I'm going to put this in non-political jargon speak. This is what he's saying. You got two choices. If you want to make Buford better now, drop what you're expecting. If you want full reconfiguration as planned and envisioned by VMDO, you're going to have to wait because we don't have the money now. If you want some changes, we can do it, but it's going to be at a fraction of the total project. I have said on this talk show for all of 2022, once I saw Youngkin win the governor's mansion, and as I saw the General Assembly go Republican, I have said on this talk show that reconfiguration cannot happen this year and that a 10-cent tax rate increase is bananas, bogus, and bull duty. And that is literally what is happening right now. Literally. That is happening right now. And for the last 90 days, I've been saying this. Doing a 10-cent tax rate increase keeps the city from doing any capital improvement projects for 8 to 10 years and doesn't even give the full ammunition with increasing cost of goods, increasing fuel, increasing real estate, increasing interest rates, increasing labor costs, It doesn't even give the full potential of the reconfiguration. All we're going to do is gentrify out cash-strapped, vulnerable citizens from the city. And when the reconfiguration is done, it's going to serve wealthy, homogenous community members and not the diverse, fixed-income community members we were trying to serve when the project started. This is the definition of fiscally irresponsible policy decision-making if it becomes a reality. And it's time we as a community say stop making stupid decisions and stop thinking, stop not seeing the forest through the trees. Run the jurisdiction like a small business owner with prudence, with the consideration of every dollar spent like it's the last dollar in the account. Stop saying tax people. Because the progressives that are saying tax people to do projects are pushing the taxed out of the community. I applaud Michael Payne. I see you're watching, Councilor Payne. I applaud you, Michael Payne, for your communicative skill set, your clarity in describing what's happening, your willingness to be the first in local government, certainly on council, to explain to the community the precarious position of our jurisdiction. I applaud you for explaining that $75 million school reconfiguration projects this year are not a reality. It took balls for you to write this. Balls. Courage. Gumption. Fortitude. Vision. Thick skin. Resilience. Moxie. And progressives are asking, well, what changed between you in October saying reconfiguration was a go, only to back off now? Dude, you know what changed? You got a Republican-controlled Virginia now who is opposed to a sales tax increase and kept a referendum from getting to Charlottesville. And because the sales tax increase in this referendum is not a reality for voters to vote upon, there's less money for reconfiguration. This is the most obvious thing in the whole freaking world. That's what changed. Government changes. Small business changes. You make projections in October and they're going to be different in March. That's called how it works. I make projections at the beginning of the year for how the business is going to perform, and guess what? They go up and down. Payne and Snook and McGill and Pinkston and Wade, they don't have a flux capacitor and a DeLorean, and they can't go 88 miles an hour, and they can't go to the future and to the past and guaranteed results with the sports almanac to create Biff's world. That's a movie. That ain't real life. It changed. The Republicans in Youngkin won Virginia. The sales tax referendum ain't a reality. There's no money. And the immediate response is to up the meals tax? To solve it? The immediate response is to Increase the lodging and the meals tax. Dude. Taxing. Paul MacArthur said this best. Paul MacArthur, are you watching the program? I believe you're watching the program, Paul MacArthur. Please let me know if you're watching the program, Paul MacArthur. What was the saying you did, Paul MacArthur? You said, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. And you can't out-tax a bad budget situation. Wasn't that what you said, Paul? He's here. Paul's watching. Thank you. He just put in my comments. He's here. What was the phrase you said, Paul? Can you put it in the comment section? You can't out-exercise a bad diet. And you can't out-tax a crappy budget situation. You said it more succinctly than that. And it resonated with me, Paul. It freaking resonated with me. Can you tell me what the phrase was? Dude, it's a phrase that Charlottesville's progressives need to hear. Because it was like, that is right. He says, my quote is correct. It was your quote, PM. Your quote, Paul. You can't out-exercise a bad diet, and you can't out-tax a crappy budget situation. If you want to close the educational gap that widened during the pandemic, regressive tax tactics associated with real estate and sales tax is not the solution. It's going to only gentrify the people and kids you're trying to serve today out of the community tomorrow, because they won't be able to afford to live here. This is so freaking obvious. Paul's exact phrase, you can't out-exercise a bad diet and you can't out-tax a bad budget. Thank you, Paul MacArthur. I'm responding right now on the feed here to you. I don't understand this. Paul MacArthur. Thank you, sir. Period. Enter. Publish. Send to Paul. I do not understand this tax everybody mentality in Charlottesville. And if you keep seeing it on social media and hearing it, look at the people and say, enough. Stop it. Stop it. That ship has sailed. It has sailed. Look at gasoline prices. Look at assessments. Look at what's going to happen with the personal property taxes. The used car market is out of control. Todd Divers, the city treasurer, has already said people are going to be freaking knocking at my door demanding or asking what the hell is wrong with our car property taxes. And he's going to say, I have to value them on market value. And the used car market is through the freaking roof. Tell folks that are saying raise taxes, stop it. Oh, just ridiculous. Last topic on the show. UVA basketball is hosting Mississippi State in the NIT. Interestingly, because of a remodeling project with the Mississippi State Arena, UVA is going to host the NIT matchup instead of the higher-seeded Mississippi State. In fact, UVA basketball is not seeded. Mississippi State is seeded. So the positive of this is another chance to watch Bennett's boys at the John Paul Jones Arena. The game tips off on Wednesday evening, and tickets are extremely reasonable. They're $14 a ticket. And the way they do these tickets, it's general admission. So if you get there early and you spend the $14, you can sit anywhere you want. Like anywhere you want. 7 p.m., the game's going to be televised on ESPN2. Cavaliers are 19-3. Mississippi State is 18-5. Mississippi State's the number 3 seed in the bracket. UVA is unseeded. It's a chance for Bennett's boys to get another game under their belt, and perhaps Bennett is going to play some of the younger boys on the roster. Time will tell. I'm positive of this. I know some people have said we should not play in the not invited tournament instead of the national invitational tournament. Some folks have said, don't play in the not invited tournament. We're better than that. I say, no way, dude. It's an opportunity for younger players to play and get real live game seasoning. It's an opportunity for more practice time. And perhaps even more importantly, it's an opportunity for the community to get thousands of people at Scott Stadium and the incremental revenue that comes with a home basketball game. To say don't play in the National Invitational Tournament is really saying don't support small businesses, because these fans in attendance will go to the small businesses in the community before and after the game. Anytime there's a chance to play a football or basketball game in the community, it's a good thing, because it's good for mom and pops and local businesses. ESPN2 Wednesday evening national television, 7 o'clock tip, Cavaliers 19-3, Mississippi State 18-5. Let's get to some comments on the program. Georgia Gilmer watching the program. Georgia Gilmer has got a comment. Georgia Gilmer, we've dubbed you the Queen of G, Georgia Gilmer. She says Kmart property is actually in the city. It's owned by Payne Associates, and it's assessed at $12.5 million. So she's passing that on to the King of Waynesboro, Kevin Yancey. So Kmart, is Kmart city or county? It's right on the line. The Queen of G says it's in the city. Payne Associates assessed at $12.5 million. The King of Waynesboro, Kevin Yancey, says it's in the county. It's right on the line. It just shows you that this invisible line, no one knows where it is, that we call the county city line. Philip Dow says this. Philip, I love the German Shepherd in your profile picture. Philip Dow, you routinely contribute to the program. Philip, you're going to get a new moniker, and it's going to be the King of Scottsville. I see that's where you're from. Philip Dow, the King of Scottsville. It is only obvious the city progressives want to be in control of the city. City controls the voting. Citizens have no control. Dude, it's time that the voting changes. The voting needs to change. And you saw the beginning of the change in the past city council election when Nikiah Walker read the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall clearly said, or clearly told Nikiah she would not win a re-election. So she chose not to run again. Now she'll say it's for mental health purposes and for quality of life. But if Nikiah Walker realized or believed that she had an opportunity to win re-election, she would have run. She would have run. And instead, Brian Pinkston was elected. Nikiah Walker is extremely way more progressive than Brian Pinkston. Now, Brian Pinkston is a Democrat, but there are varying degrees of Democrats. Lloyd Snook and Brian Pinkston are much more to the center of the aisle, certainly when compared to Nikiah Walker. So you're already seeing the shift in dynamics in city government and city ideologies change. And I can assure you, as gasoline prices, as inflation, as personal property taxes, as tax rates, as meal taxes go up, the mindset of progressiveness is going to change. Because as people have their disposable income pinched and eroded, their mindset and ideology and how they vote will become more fiscally responsible. Watch it. Watch it change. Kevin says, anyone using market pricing for used cars produced by used car dealers is a joke. I understand that. I get it. Market pricing for used cars is terrifying and scary right now. But the reality is the used car market is bananas. And the city treasurer has to assess personal property on market value. It's the law. It's the law. It literally is the law. So that's why these personal property bills that are going to be due the first week of June are going to shock us. It's going to be gross, guys. It's going to be gross, especially for those of us that have newer cars. It's going to be 25% higher than you would have normally expected to, and 25% higher than you paid last year. Prepare yourselves. Danny O'Day says on LinkedIn, "Hey Jerry, I agree that blindly following this investment strategy would be horrible for locals and would encourage gentrification, but wouldn't the lack of investment in the municipality's resources similarly push people out of our community and serve to make a separation between the wealthy residents who can afford schools like Stab and Covenant and the students from less well-off families who are forced to continue going to underfunded and dilapidated school systems and school buildings?" I mean, there's truth to that, Danny. There's 100% truth to that. You make a very good point. He's basically saying if we don't invest in our public schools, then it's going to widen the educational gap. But I would rather table or delay investing in those schools a year than to do it now and gentrify the community, the members that the reconfiguration was planned for, out of the community. If you do it now, the people are going to peace out because they're going to have to. They're going to have no choice. If you wait, you table it a year, maybe you see if you can get another push on the sales tax referendum at the local level, then you'll have potentially new revenue. Hell, do the Biergarten idea. I know you like the Biergarten idea, DOD. We do the Biergarten idea, and we allocate all the revenue from the Biergarten idea to schools. Guess what? The lottery, gambling, funds schools. ABC and cannabis, funding schools. Use the Biergarten idea to fund schools. DOD says, completely agree. Always better to do something right than to do something fast. Amen. Danny O'Day, amen. On LinkedIn, I'm responding to that. We'll get you, DOD, Danny O'Day, on this program. The man is smart, and he follows what's going on in this program. I promise you, we will get you on the program. It's likely going to be Danny O'Day next week or the week after, but I will reach out to you, I promise. And still to come this week, I am off tomorrow. I have a meeting with the city tomorrow. I am off tomorrow. No show, I Love CVille show tomorrow. Real Talk at 10:15, and I believe Keith Smith is back from his Caribbean escapades tomorrow. But no I Love CVille show tomorrow. I am, however, back on the program on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we're going to have Kalila Ambrose Jones on the program. She's an entrepreneur. On Thursday, I'm very excited to announce UVA baseball coach Brian O'Connor is going to be live in studio. So UVA baseball coach Brian O'Connor, a national champion on Thursday's program. That's St. Patty's Day. And Friday's show is going to be Carol Thorpe, one-time head of the Tea Party in Charlottesville and the Queen of Jack Jewett. Danny O'Day, we will get you on the program. A few more comments and then we're going to get out of here. Kevin Higgins, the King of Greenwood. CVille's experiencing PTSD after the Walker years. We need to talk about what happened, learn from it, and make sure that never happens again. Years of insanity is what I call it, never again. Kevin Higgins, I relayed these comments live on air. Period. Thank you for participating. Period. Enter. Kevin Higgins, the King of Greenwood. All right, that's the program. It's the I Love CVille show. I hope you guys enjoy the program as much as I enjoy hosting the program. Judah Wickhauer is our director. We will see you tomorrow at 10:15 with Real Talk with a sun-kissed Keith Smith in studio. Hasta luego.